Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are diving into a skill that is, let's be honest, an absolute superpower in today's world. We're talking about how to read critically, how to cut through all the noise and really understand what someone is trying to say.
You know that feeling, right? You're staring at a page, the words are going in, but you get to the end and you're just lost. You're left wondering what the real argument was supposed to be. Well, we've all been there, and today we're going to fix that for good.
So here's our game plan. Think of this as building a toolkit. First, we'll look at the most basic building blocks of any argument. Then, we'll see how they fit together. After that, we'll learn how to decode the secret language authors use. And then, we'll get into some real practical strategies, including what traps to avoid. By the end, you'll have a whole new way of looking at text.
All right, first things first. Every single complex argument, no matter how intimidating it looks, is actually made of just a few simple parts. Once you learn to spot these, everything else just clicks into place. The first building block is the opinion. This is the main event. It's the author's core claim, their big idea, the one thing they're trying to convince you of. You can think of it as the what. What do they want you to believe?
Okay, so an opinion can't just hang there by itself. It needs support. That's where the reason comes in. The reason answers that all-important question, why? Why should you believe their opinion? It's the bridge that connects their idea to the proof.
And what holds that bridge up? The evidence. This is the solid ground everything is built on. We're talking hard facts, the statistics, the data, the expert quotes. This isn't a belief, it's the verifiable proof. This is the how we know it's true part.
So, we've got our three core pieces: opinion, reason, and evidence. Now let's see how they snap together to make an argument that actually works. And here's that flow in action. It's a really simple, logical chain. The author states what they believe, that's the opinion. Then they tell you why they believe it, that's the reason. And finally, they show you how they know it's true, and that's the evidence. What, why, how. Beautifully simple, right? But here's a little secret. The absolute best arguments, the really persuasive ones, they don't just pretend that opposing views don't exist. They actually bring them into the conversation. Check this out. The main argument is that online learning is great for accessibility. But a smart author won't just ignore the downsides. They'll acknowledge them head on, saying something like, although some people are worried about social interaction, this is called a counterargument. By doing this, the author shows you they've considered other perspectives, which, ironically, makes their own argument seem way more credible and trustworthy. Okay, so how are we supposed to spot all these different pieces out in the wild? Well, here's the good news. Writers leave us clues. They use specific words, little signposts, that guide us through the logic of what they're saying.
Think of this table as your official decoder ring. When you see words like should or must, a little alarm should go off in your head that says, aha, that's an opinion. See, because or since, that's a huge flag for a reason. And words like although or however, that's your sign that a counterargument is coming up. These words are literally the map to the author's thinking.
All right, we've got the theory down, we've got our decoder ring, now it's time to roll up our sleeves and get practical. Let's turn all this into a simple, active strategy you can use every time you read.
This is the key right here. Reading shouldn't be passive. It's an investigation. Before you even dive in, just skim the headings. Then, as you read, get a pen out. Seriously, highlight the main claims, underline the evidence, circle those little signal words we just talked about, and please annotate. Write your questions and thoughts in the margins. It feels like extra work at first, but trust me, it's a total game changer for your comprehension.
So now that you know how to build an argument, let's talk about how to spot a weak one. There are a few common traps that are super easy to fall into, both for writers and for readers. Once you know what they are, you can see them from a mile away.
Okay, this is probably the number one trap, mixing up evidence and opinion. So just keep this little question in your back pocket. Is this a verifiable fact, or is this just someone's belief? For example, the movie grossed $100 million is evidence. You can check that. The movie was fantastic is an opinion. Making that distinction is absolutely crucial.
The next trap is just totally glossing over those counterarguments. Our brains love a simple story, so we tend to ignore the complicated parts. But you have to fight that urge. Train yourself to be a detective. Actively hunt for those signal words, although, while, however. When you find one, slow down and really think about how the author deals with that opposing view. And finally, here's the subtle one. Don't just assume a reason actually supports the main claim. You have to check the link in the chain. Ask yourself, does this reason really lead to that conclusion? Sometimes an author will offer a reason that sounds good, but when you look closely, it doesn't logically connect. If that link is weak, the whole argument can fall apart.
So why are we doing all of this? Why are we breaking things down so carefully? Because the goal isn't just to get through an article. The real goal is genuine, deep understanding, so you can actually use what you've learned.
And this is the real payoff. When you can break down an argument like this, you stop being just a passive reader. You become an active thinker. You can analyze sources for a research paper so much better. You can spot the weak points in someone else's logic. And maybe most importantly, you learn how to build much stronger, clearer, more persuasive arguments in your own writing.
And here's a super practical tool you can start using today. Instead of just highlighting or taking random notes, organize them into a simple chart like this one. What's the main claim? What's the reason? What evidence did they give? Did they bring up a counterargument? This simple act of organizing your notes forces you to think critically as you read.
So let's just quickly recap the big ideas. Remember, every argument is just those three basic building blocks: opinions, reasons, and evidence. Always be on the lookout for those signal words that guide you through the text. Give extra credit to arguments that fairly address counterarguments. And really, your most powerful tool is a pen. Get in there and actively engage with what you're reading.
We've basically just given you the blueprint, the architectural plans behind any piece of writing. You can now see the structure that holds the words together. So the only question left is, with this new toolkit, what ideas are you going to deconstruct? And more importantly, what powerful arguments are you going to build yourself?